Gypsy Rose Blanchard just got released from jail after 10 years of serving for the crime of the death of her mother, who is accused of the Manchusen Syndrome. This is an interesting story to look at through the lens of Bazi Chinese astrology. This is Lydia Nitya, and I am so happy to see you on the channel where we cover all things feng shui, flying stars feng shui, and Bazi Chinese astrology. Often I like to read the charts of famous people to better understand our own lives and our own charts. Have to say that I also very much enjoy trials. And we all remember that this channel completely blew up when I read the charts of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp during that infamous trial. And I've also been looking at the trials and the litigations, all the issues around Donald Trump, who has a chart that is plagued with legal woes. So it's interesting to look at, for me, the charts of people where there are family members involved or loved ones involved, and what it is in your chart that can lead to some really twisted things going on. I mean, human beings can be vicious, vicious creatures. So I don't know if you've been following this story. It's a rather interesting one. And it's not the first time that there's been a made-for-TV movie, because it's already been made and it's coming out. I think they timed it with the release of Gypsy from jail. The boyfriend she was with at the time is serving a life-term sentence. Interesting to me that her sentence took place over an entire luck cycle, which is 10-year period. And when you look at, I was surprised that I actually found Gypsy Blanchard's full birthday with time. Of course, didn't find it for her mother, but I did find mom's chart. And even though the hour is where we find your career, and in this case, what we'd really want to see is her relationship with her daughter. But there's enough here that if you stick with this video, I'm going to try to be as concise as I can, but there's a lot to unpack and a lot to try to understand. So Gypsy Rose Blanchard was born on the 27th of July, 1991. We've adjusted the time for daylight savings to 10:12 in the morning. This is a yin metal sheep for the year, the month of yin wood sheep, the day of yang earth dog, and the hour of yin fire snake. Right away, we see that the dog and the sheep form a semi-punishment that is when you see this in somebody's chart where there are multiple earth zodiac animals, it tends to show someone who is plagued with family stress that weakens your life force, okay? Now, we all know people personally and in the news who may have had a chart like this. And these are people who, it's almost like their family is a trap. They can't seem to get out from it. Maybe it's alcoholism or child abuse or poverty. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be when you have this condition in your chart, how it manifests, right? So she's got this in her chart, and interesting that that her mother very much, let's start with her. Let's start with the mom, because Dee Dee Blanchard, she is born May 3rd, 1967. Now, her three pillars, because we're missing the hour, is yin fire sheep and the month of Yang Wood Dragon and the day of Yin Fire Rabbit. Now, these two are both born in the year of the sheep. The other thing that's interesting to me is there's a lot of mirroring. And I have read charts. Well, I'll say to someone, your mom is like your best friend. And they're like, what? Oh my God, she's like my enemy. And what I've often said is when, let's say in this situation, you are a Yang Earth person, which is Gypsy, and in her chart, she sees her mother as Yin Earth. It is somebody that is showing you your shadow side. Now, what is your shadow? Maybe you are the one in shadow and the other person is showing you the light side. Either way, not everybody feels comfortable having somebody hold a mirror up in front of you. There you go. Look at yourself, right? It's uncomfortable, especially when that person is highlighting aspects of yourself you don't want to look at. Maybe you're trying to move past it. Maybe it's something like, being lazy. Maybe it's being manipulative. So for Gypsy, her mother is her shadow. And both being of the earth element. Buried in Gypsy's chart, where the mother resides, there is the hidden presence of the mother, and there is also the hidden presence of the family. That mom had a sense of duty to take care of her. I don't know about the father. I would imagine in a situation like this, the mother would probably not want the father around. Get in the way, figure things out. I mean, this woman did horror to her daughter, had her believing she had all of these illnesses. I mean, when you read the story, it is so heartbreaking that you can convince your own child that they are that broken. And she wasn't. She's perfectly fine. So with this situation, this is chilling, okay? When I was reading Gypsy's chart, there is 60% of her chart. Now, ideally, you want 15 to 20%, 15 to 25% of each element to be balanced. In this case, the fire element is about 35%, and her own earth element is about 30%. There's a balanced amount of metal, what she, is motivated to create and be active with. There's no water in her chart, and there's a balanced amount of wood. Now, the wood is very good because the wood is nourishing this overinflated fire. If you ask me, this is a Jalbird. And a Jalbird is where there is too much resource in a chart. There's too much fire feeding Gypsy's earth self. And because of that, this is called a Jalbird. It is a kind of a penalty in a chart that suggests that the child kills the mother. Yeah, literally, that is like the translation of this. And it is a situation in which the person who has this in their chart is mentally injured. Wrap your head around that. I know, really weird, yeah? And can't make money. So it's just very much like if you put too much water on a plant, the plant can't be a plant anymore, right? It's trying to be a plant, but it's drowning. It's drowning in too much resource. I need water, but not that much. And so the over-oppressive element becomes so oppressive that the element that is yourself can barely breathe, can barely function, and is mentally challenged as a result. Now, hold that thought, because in addition to this, there is Gypsy born on the day of the dog, and the month and year of the sheep is a semi-punishment where the family deprives life force through extreme stress. And when I see this in a person's chart, I know their childhood could not have been easy. All right. So this is the setup for this child's chart. The mom, my theory is this, that the mother, Dee Blanchard, suffered the same situation with her own mother. Why? Because in her chart, even with only 3 pillars being presented, we find a semi-wood trio and a semi-traditional trio. So there's all of this wood surging in. So Dee is a fire person with 32% fire and 40% wood. So more than 70% of her chart is what nourishes her and who she is, her own element. Very much like Gypsy, only even more inflated. And again, another Zhaobird, another situation where the child is injured from having too much of the mother's oppressive energy. And with her relationship with her mother, it was an act of absolute rebellion and harm. So, all that being said, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was also some religious manipulation coming from her mom. So this feels like ancestral karma. And then you want to look at the grandmother's chart. Like, does this just keep going? It begs to the question begs to be answered, you know? So with all of that, I was looking at this like, holy mackerel. And the day that she was stabbed in the back while she was asleep by Gypsy's boyfriend at the time was a year of the yin wood sheep and the month of yang water horse and the day of yang water dog. So right here, we've got a lot of fire on this day. That fire is Dee's element, and that fire is the element that is so oppressive to Gypsy. Very interesting. And on top of this, when you look for Dee, the year that she died, which was 2015, June 14th, 2015 is the day that she died. It was a year that was focused on her daughter, was a big part of that year. The month also shows that the daughter is hidden in there. And that the day that she died was a day of family and rebellion. Massive change coming into the family with herself hidden in there, which means that when you've got the day of the dog hitting up against any part of her chart is going to break things open. And what's in there to be broken open? Her own self. So that day of the dog, we know going into the year 2024 that the dragon and the dog are enemies. So there's that. And then on top of that, so we've got the dog and the dragon banging up against each other, cracking this energy open of being betrayed is in this, and her own life force. And then the sheep just adds more fuel to this fire and also the dog brings in the punishment, the family punishment. So this feels really very clear cut in that this was a very sad situation. Now, when you look at, for Gypsy, the day that this murder happened, the year itself really was about her trying to reclaim her identity and being very much about family and the duty of family. The month that, we go into June and she's gonna kill her mother, the month of June is all about her mother and betrayal. And we then go into the day of the murder and we see betrayal. We see herself rising up, taking sovereignty. Here I am, acts of rebellion, and her mother. And again, this was interesting that the dog of that day bangs up against the dog month, or the dog of her own self, which is, in and of itself, two dogs banging up against each other. And the mother is within that. And then the dog adding, again, this exacerbation with the punishment with the family. So all of this being said, it's very interesting to also look at the fact that this child at the age of 3, until she was 12, from 1995 to 2005, her chart was influenced by a yang fire monkey. And in this time, we see that her hour of the snake with this monkey gave her 10 years of the punishment that I have mentioned often, of the snake and the monkey. It's not a full punishment, but it's enough to say that this shows chronic illness and accidents. Also that, then we go to the next cycle, which is 13 to 22, and this is pivotal because this luck cycle literally ends the year her mother is murdered. So this is 2005, yin fire, rooster comes in, and the rooster surges in a traditional and a seasonal semi-trio of metal. Now the metal is draining this energy out, which is needed, and it's a good thing for her chart. But the rooster damages her earthy self with the dog. So this is a direct hit to herself and to her agency. This is feels like a real threat to her. So because Earth is damaged by all of this metal coming out, the situation of the rooster harming the dog, if that weren't the case, the metal would be an encouraging thing to see that she's motivated and far more in an active time of her life, but that's not the case. Because the rooster harms her own dog self, then the earth is damaged. She is then damaged. So we go from this snake monkey punishment in her chart, suggesting chronic illness and accidents, into this time, the next luck cycle, in which her own element is damaged. These are really not good things. This is like the pieces that are beginning to disrupt the ability for this girl to survive her life. And now 2015 rolls around. She is now in a luck cycle of the dog, which means that everything I've mentioned, all of the punishments and penalties, are exacerbated by the luck cycle of the dog here. And this really was a luck cycle. 2015, and she's in it now until 2025. Next spring, a year from now, she'll move into a new luck cycle. And this has been a time of discovering herself. This has been a time for her to discover herself, to find her independence. And within this luck cycle, there is the mother, and there is that rebellion, that need for change. Now, as she is headed out into the world, next year is an interesting one, because when she moves into her new luck cycle, it is yin earth. And what I like about this is this feels like you could think on a negative side of an identity crisis, but I see it as an identity reclamation. And I think that we use the word identity crisis incorrectly. I think that when we are in an identity crisis, what we're actually doing is reclaiming ourself, and that requires reframing the world around us and how we function in it. The caution I have for her as she goes into this year is that the dragon is a direct hit to her dog self. And this could feel like a lot of big challenges. And I know that she's planning on getting married. I would not suggest that. I really would not suggest that. Somebody coming out of what she has come out of, I would say, needs a big healing time. And the other aspect to this period for her is beginning to make money. And but there's a caution for sure to her health. And I also see that there could be a beginning of a career for her. This is like the beginning, the little tiny starts to a life for herself. And this 10 years is going to be a journey. You know, here she is in her 30s now, and her life is just beginning. So my only caution to her is to not run out, too fast, taking on too much, but to pace herself. But anyway, I hope that you found this as fascinating as I did. And I'm definitely going to watch the made-for-TV movie now. And I appreciate any comments or questions you have. Until next time, be well.